Hi, everyone. I'm Tatiana Whitlock, National Director of Training for a Girl and a Gun Women's Shooting League. And joining me today is Jim Dexter of Tactically Sound Training Center and my teammate on the Walther Defense Division. And he will be joining us for RISE National Conference to be held in Cameo Shooting Sports in Grand Junction, Colorado this April. Hi, Jim. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Very, very good. We are super psyched to have you join us this year. Tell us a little bit about who you are and the work that you do.
Sure. My name is Jim Dexter. I am a full-time police officer in the suburbs of Chicago, outside the Cook County area. I don't deal with the madness of Chicago. I like to get that out of the way right away. That I'm a little bit more toned down in the agency that I work for. Been in law enforcement for 15 years now. Along with the background of a couple other things, I spent 6 years in the Army National Guard out of Chicago, serving as a military police officer with a deployment to Iraq from 2003 to 2004. Also, during that time, while at Western Illinois getting my bachelor's, I spent some time in the volunteer fire service. I did 10 years between both Illinois and Wisconsin. While I lived in Wisconsin as a as a volunteer fireman, which is where my background for some of the things that I do with the training company, Tactically Sound, that I own, kind of comes from. As an only firefighter, not involved in an EMS system, we had a separate EMS system. Found myself going and the department going on only traumatic calls, things that were CPR based, true high level trauma care calls. And so I went to EMT school, and I was in college at the time. My only job wasn't the National Guard, so I didn't have a whole lot of money. The state of Illinois, being the state of Illinois, decided after I passed everything that they were going to charge me $75 more to sit for yet another test. And I was like, you know what? I don't really need to know like what a diabetic patient needs. I don't. That's not what I'm going to do. I know that I'm going to go be a police officer, but I still want to maintain, these base level skills that I'm probably going to need to know to immediately help somebody as a police officer. And so, being a combat lifesaver as well in the Army, I had some of those skills. I just continued to look at this like immediate trauma care. At the time, what would later become the Stop the Bleed program, and ECCC TECC style medical care at this civilian level. I took my first full-time law enforcement position in Madison, Wisconsin, where I served as a patrol officer uh, there, and continued to kind of the first responder medical skill on higher level calls and incidents that we would go on, while also serving in the fire service in Wisconsin. And then I would leave there the Federal Air Marshal Service out of the Chicago field office. In the Air Marshal Service, we were all trained as first responders, and I ultimately became a first responder instructor through the American Safety Health Institute, where it kind of confirmed that I was learning and starting to teach the right things, because we sat through this super long school and then instructor school for first responder. And like if it wasn't a Stop the Bleed or TECC topic, it was like just call 911. And so I was like, okay, this is kind of silly, right? We need to kind of turn our focus and turn our heads away from like that American Red Cross, basic first aid, and then that's not an American Red Cross a knock at all. They have great programs. We need to turn our heads from basic first aid topics to really immediate trauma care things, like really what is important right now that I can do. You combine that with my firearm skills that I have, with the red dot stuff that I started to get into with one of our teammates, Scott Jablinski of Modern Samurai Project. Um, I was approached by some friends of mine, some my I guess what you would call my close circle, who were like, "Hey, you need to start teaching." I've been a law enforcement instructor for quite a while. At that point, Jedi always gives me a hard time about the amount of instructor titles and things that I have, and I've just recently gotten a couple more, so my nickname continues to get larger. And I really got pushed to do it. And for me, um, my my kind of hurdle to teaching the civilian population wasn't like I'm the police, I'll only teach the police. It was I had a difficult time with the concept of taking people's money to provide them information, right? Like I've been a law enforcement instructor. I was getting paid to do it. Everybody was getting paid to be there. And it was difficult for me to really grasp with the fact that I possessed enough, right? That I should be taking people's money to give them that information. A good friend of mine worked for a company at the time. He was the director of security, and he wanted me to bring some classes to his security guards. And he's like, "Hey, but you need to own a company." And I was like, "Oh well, I don't want to do that." And he's like, "Well, here's my budget for the year." And I was like, "That's great, man." He's like, "No, like that's going to be your paycheck for the year." And I was like, "Okay, well, I own a company now." Like, so I incorporated it, got my insurance, and I knew it was at least going to be a break even thing, right? I'm like, okay, there's no loss for me. And I decided to start putting on some civilian classes, and that's when I realized that the need was there, as well as the desire to learn something um, that's not the sexy thing, right? It's not when we look at the defensive context of our lives, right? Like medical is pretty far down the list on things that are exciting on paper, right? And so I really strive to make exciting in the classroom, right? I'm a really dynamic person just by my personality. It's a very dynamic topic that, when presented, correctly and in a very upfront and forward manner, I think that people start to receive it better. And a topic that can be boring and one of those things that we can kind of write off and just put in the back of our head suddenly becomes more important, right? And the public access necessity of these sort of things, to me, is vitally important. And I don't care whether you get it from me or you get it from somebody else. To me, the thing is that you become a life force multiplier when you know this information. And it's not just based on gunfire, right? Like all of these skills, these medical skills that you learn, stopping the bleed is stopping the bleed. Your body doesn't care if your artery has been severed by a bullet or by a kitchen knife. It doesn't make any difference at all. So access to the information is important. Which is one of the things and one of the reasons why, when Walther approached me to join the rest of you all as members of the defense division, when they said what their point of it was and what their purpose was, I was all in, 100%. My thing is that I'm law enforcement because I use what I do. I can walk away from everything right now and go be a sergeant of police and do and have the same style of life, that I do now. And so when I was approached about the defense division, and one of the specific reasons why I was being brought on the team, my background in immediate trauma care knowledge at the end user level, I was all for it. And then it came with some hesitancy, right? That was we're just going to bring this on a team to say that we have it, and then Walther has backed it up 100%. The product that I've been working on was delivered. I have the end model in my hand right now, and the rest of them are going to Walther. Yeah, yep. So that is all being packaged up. Little tease for everybody. And then Walther is now sending me out to you all to bring what I and they feel is important information for people to know. They're truly putting their money where their mouth is for a firearms company to send one of their defense division members out to get trained in medical. What does Walther benefit by that, right? It makes their end users stronger, right? It gives them more information. And what I found in my classes is that medical is one of those classes that is a little bit lighter than firearms, right? It's easier to kind of get a taste of training in because it's lower stress, right? It's not the same as guns going on around you. But what I found is that I have had people take my medical class where I talk about firearms and things like that because they're related, and it opened their mind up to training and the training environment and what it's like being around people who have those same ideals and desires to protect themselves in the entire realm of life. And it's opened doors for them to the training industry, to the firearms industry, which is to me the coolest thing like that there is as an instructor. Right, when I finish a class, yeah, I like to hear, get feedback that they enjoyed the class. But what I would prefer to see is that, like, yeah, that was a great class. Like, I'm looking at this other instructor now to go take this class, to go take this firearms class, right? To come to one of your firearms classes, right? Hey, what are some other places that I can train at? That's my end goal. I don't want you to come to my class, take the information and just have that be the end. I want it to be the beginning.
Well, I'm excited. I enjoyed the session I had an opportunity to take with you, one of the Walther events, and I am really thrilled to be bringing you out for national conference so that all of our members who are going to be present there have an opportunity to experience this for themselves. So, for the members who are joining you for your sessions at national conference, what are you teaching and what can they expect?
I'll be teaching a Stop the Bleed session, immediate trauma care. It'll be focused around the Stop the Bleed curriculum, and what you're going to expect is an overview of dealing with trauma incidents and in order of importance. Right, you're going to leave with the critical knowledge of how to stop the bleed, how to recognize that bleed, how to stop it with both commercially available products and field expedient measures. One of the things about Stop the Bleed is that the whole concept is that nobody should ever die from bleeding out. Really, ever. To me, at this point, it's inexcusable with the access to information that we have for people to ever bleed out. It's so easy to address if you have the knowledge to do that. And it's not, you don't have to be a trauma care doctor to apply massive hemorrhage techniques to deal with preventable loss of life. So we're going to talk about what that looks like, how to stop that, right? Like what it means to really be able, to do that in a setting where you are the true first responder, right? Like I say in my class all the time, that I don't like the phrase first responder, right? I don't need to pat myself on the back that I'm a first responder, because what that does is I think it minimizes the idea that anybody can be a first responder, right? Like calling 911, while it's a step in that chain of survival, you're not really a first responder at that point, right? Yeah, you're getting somebody help. I would rather have somebody have the knowledge to get hands on and really truly do something to alter the track of that person's life, because that's really what you're doing. Right? When you apply these skills, you're altering the track of that person's life. You are hitting the pause button on that person's survival. Right? If someone has a massive hemorrhage, there's only a certain amount of time to deal with that, and when that time expires, that person expires, right? And so everyone should have this knowledge, and I look forward to people walking away as force multipliers. At the end of all my classes, I thank everyone for their attendance, because when I leave, I have no idea what's going to happen to me and my family. I always liken it to, if I'm on my way home from this class and you leave after me and I get in a car accident and I suffer a massive bleed during that, you now have the ability to save my life. I don't think it gets any cooler than that. It's, again, I said, medical is not sexy until you do it and you realize that what you just did saved someone's life. And to me, like, not dying and not letting somebody else die is pretty sexy.
We agree, and the Girl in a Gun community appreciates that you do this work and that you're bringing this information to us. So I would call this a Stop the Bleed uh, 10x from what normal programs are, because ladies that are coming to join us, you get Jim and all of his knowledge. He tells hilarious jokes and crazy stories. So, in addition to the info, you're going to have a great time on the range with Jim. Now, for folks who are watching who may not be able to participate in conference or who are learning about you through our organization for the first time, how can they find out about you and the work that you do and the courses you offer online?
Sure. So my website is www.tacticallysound.org. You can also find me on Facebook. Facebook's Tactically Sound Training Center. You just Tactically Sound brings you right to me. And on Instagram, I am also Tactically Sound on Instagram. All of my social media based things, my company stuff, is all product training equipment related. There's no other nonsense on there. It's strictly about training, about product. You can see a lot of medical stuff, a lot of red dot stuff. The other cool thing about my social media is that you'll see a lot of interaction from other members of the industry from all walks of life. I'm very fortunate. One of the things that has enriched me with starting my company and doing things is the circle of people that I'm surrounded by. If you have any sort of question, anything related to any of this, to defensive culture at all, it's going to get answered, or somebody can get tagged in to answer that. You've got Scott Jabinski from Modern Samurai Project, or other teammates in Bill Blower from Tap Rack Tactical, Nick Young from Velox Training. I mean, these guys are constantly, interacting. We're always interacting with each other to bring people information, because that's really truly what it's all about. My contact information is in all those places, and so if you feel like you don't want to ask a question, out in the sphere of social media, things like that, shoot me a message, right? I'm super accessible. I pride myself in being super accessible. People all the time like, oh, hey, thanks for getting back to me so fast. Thanks for actually answering my question. And I couldn't understand not answering those questions. If you take the time to ask me a question, I'm going to take the time to give you an answer, and more importantly, a firsthand experience or a firsthand information answer. I'm huge on firsthand information. I think it's something that's currently lacking right now. I think that there's a lot of people talking about things that they may not necessarily know things about firsthand, and not maliciously. But if you come to me and ask me for an answer, if I give it to you, it's either from my firsthand experience, or I'm going to attribute my answer to somebody else who has that firsthand experience.
I subscribe to that line of thought 100%. Say the same thing at the
I
end of
know you
every
do.
program. So yeah, I'm on board with that. Thank you so much, Jim. We are thrilled to have you at National Conference this year, and welcome to the Girl in a Gun community.
Thank you so much. I can't wait. I'll see y'all in Colorado.